Hey guys, I've looked at quite a few Kickstarters in my time, and today I'm going to share with you the top 10 ways to back a Kickstarter with confidence. Now, this top 10 list is not in order. You should be doing all or most of these. This is just simply what I do and what I've learned to do to make sure that I back games that I know I'll like, so that I don't feel bad putting the money up front. I'm not worried about it. And then I end up happy at the end. And that's really the goal for all of us, right? Okay. So the number 10 spot is going to do what I always do. If there's an early back reward, an early backer reward, back then. Back as soon as you can. If it just looks interesting, go ahead and back. It costs nothing to back. And then start doing your research. You can start doing a lot of these other ones. And then at the very end, even if you've done all this other stuff, at the 48-hour mark, hit that reminder so it reminds you. And at the last 48 hours, you should go back to it, see what all the stretch goals are, see where the game is now, see where the community is now, all the updates, and then verify. You don't necessarily have to track it all the time, but you do want to make sure at the very end, before you are actually charged, now that you see the complete picture of the game and not just that initial offering, if this is in fact what you want to do. Because sometimes you'll want to up the pledge, sometimes you'll want to lower it, sometimes you'll want to drop out, and then sometimes you're just going all in. It just depends, but that's kind of the ideal way that I do it, so it's not a chore to do. It's not like I'm doing this constantly. Even me, and I run a channel on this kind of stuff. So back early to get the rewards and then verify at the last 48 hours if this is actually something you want. So that's number 10. Just do those two things and you should be pretty much golden. But we're going to go through a few things you can do right after you back. So, number 2 is to read through the Kickstarter page. They have a little campaign page. You should read through it. Or at least, you don't have to read every little thing. They're going to have like a little spiel about how like, hey, this is not a pre-order and all that at the bottom. And here, there's a few things you want to look out for. Two of them is the fact that they have key gameplay mechanic callouts. It doesn't have to be in a video or rule book at this point. What we're looking for here is just they understand what makes their game unique, and they're calling out that. If it's, hey, look at this, how combat works, or look at this dice manipulation, or look at this system we have in place to spawn new things, or, well, I don't care what it is, but they should have kind of snippets. It doesn't have to be every game mechanic, but a good couple to show that this is kind of what we think are the elevator pitch selling points for the game. Okay, and so look for those and make sure they have that. Additionally, and I'm lumping this in because I think they're both kind of important and show the same thing, that they understand what it is that they're even trying to offer. So they have the key concepts called out in the campaign, and then their tier system is consumer friendly. And what I mean by that is there's not 1,800 of them. You don't have to try and figure out, okay, if I back this one, I'm getting this, but then I'm missing that, so that's gonna have to be this and that. If it's that way at the start, they've made it too confusing for you, and it's something you gotta have to judge. It's like, is this something that I'm gonna really be able to comprehend? Because sometimes they're just overly complex. Like, if you look at like Kingdom Death Monster, it's like ridiculous. You can't make any sense of it. Granted, that's a large game that's very complex and not exactly a perfect example, but what I mean is you should be able to understand what it is you're even getting. Okay, so look at the tiers, and then you can swap and figure out which one you want to back and all that afterwards. But you should do that again right away because you want to keep that early bird, and they don't always keep that if you're swapping and stuff like that. So that's number 9. Okay, so number 8 is a huge one for me, and I'm a stickler for this. They need to have a Why Kickstarter section. Okay, it should say, why Kickstarter, ? And then answer that question. If they don't have it, ask them. If they don't have an answer, leave. Well, here's my point here. The reason for a why Kickstarter is because there are different reasons to be on Kickstarter. Some companies, they're super indie. This is going to be an exclusive. It's the only way they can even get this game out to you. Okay, and so that's what they're going to say. Like, hey, you want this game? This is your chance. It's not going to retail. This is what we can do. If you back us, we give you the game. This is our, dream or whatever, and our passion, and that's what we want to do. So okay, I'm getting an exclusive item. Sometimes it's, hey, this is going to go to retail, but you're going to get it early. It's going to be the same price, but early. Okay, that's good to know. Maybe you're paying more, but getting it early. Okay, again, good to know. Maybe you're paying the same but getting more and getting it at the same time. Okay, or maybe even slightly later. Maybe it's, hey, you're going to get these Kickstarter exclusives plus the base game, but we're also going to retail at the same time, and it might even come out before. Okay, they need to be completely honest in their why Kickstarter, and they need to actually tell you why you should pay at this point, right? Why not wait until retail? Why, if I want to get the game as soon as possible and retail comes out sooner, I might not care as much about the Kickstarter exclusives, or I might be willing to get them in the aftermarket and get the game early. Okay, I know plenty of people that did that for Forbidden Fortress by Flying Frog Games, where it came out and they were able to get their hands on it early, and so they did that instead of the Kickstarter, and more power to them. For that one, it was, you just get a lot more stuff early, but it's all packaged together in one thing. So that's really important as well. You really want to look at why it's Kickstarter, because that might change why you back it, or if you're even going to back it. So if they don't have that, ask that question, and if you're a creator, put that in your campaign page. It's super important. Let us know why. Okay, number 7. This one's going to be a little bit harder to determine, but you can get a general gist of it. And you might have to wait for the 48-hour mark on this one, because if nothing else, you should check in the 48-hour mark. You might be able to check it even early, but they should have focus. Okay, they need to know their pitch. The creator needs to understand what it is they're delivering and say, this is what I have to offer. Now, again, you can do the whole toddler thing that I talk about, where you have different options, right? Awaken Realms does this. They know what they're offering, but they'll let you pick between 2 different things. Like, hey, would you like this guy to wear blue or purple? Okay, it's the same guy, but what you could decide if it's blue or purple. So they have a vision of what the game is. You can help manipulate that, but that's it, is slightly tweak it. If they're adding stuff because backers want this and that, or they're fundamentally changing things, that's a word of caution. That's something you gotta watch out for, because as backers, especially as a community of backers, we're not gonna all pick stuff that we all like. And you don't want to back something early because it's this, and then it ends up being that because of all the feedback. Because you might have liked this and not that. Now, it could be, and again, this is why you want to check at the 48 hours, that you didn't really like this, but you were kind of, you were willing to wait it out and check, and then, oh yeah, that's awesome. So, it's not like it's necessarily a bad thing, but it is something to be cautious about. If the creator doesn't actually have a very focused idea on what it is they're pitching, then you might not want to be giving your hard-earned money towards that lack of vision. Okay, now number 6. Now number 6 is, do they have a rulebook and or a gameplay video of some kind? Now, I'm not saying you have to read it, okay? I don't read it. I don't go in the rulebook and then just read the whole rulebook. That's boring. I hate to do it the first time. I do it front to back. I go there and I read there, and everybody's waiting for me half the time. Sometimes I try to read it early, but a lot of times it's like, yeah, let's play the game. Okay, I'll read the rulebook. But I'm not going to be doing that during the campaign, generally. But what I will do is I'll always open the rulebook. If there is a gameplay video, I'll always at least leaf through it. The gameplay videos or rule explanation videos I'll kind of watch more often. But what you're trying to judge here isn't necessarily that, oh, this mechanic's good and this mechanic's good, because it's very hard, especially with a sufficiently complex game or with a lot of different moving parts, to know if they all mesh together well. Right? I use Blood Rage, for instance, a lot, just because it has card combat, it has miniature area control mechanics, but the miniatures also affect the gameplay, combat, and then it has drafting on top of that, and there are no dice, and then you have to like carry over, so it's like slight deck building, and that's a lot of various different things. Do they all mesh together well? You don't know until you actually play, right? And you see the game flow. Now, if they have a gameplay video, great, depending on the quality of it and how rigged it is, but really, you're just looking for completeness. How far along are they in the rulebook? First of all, if they don't have a rulebook, and they don't have, and I've seen this before, and they don't have a gameplay video or a rule video, so all they have is those little snippets of a few rules, I strongly caution against that, because that goes again to do you even have a vision, or are you just selling a concept, a high-level concept, and you'll figure it out after you get money? Okay, so you have to have a certain level of preparedness for Kickstarter. One of those things is a rulebook. It doesn't have to be complete. If you have a beta and it's in a notepad or like a Word doc and it's like 1.5 pages, I don't care. Post it. Post what you have. It doesn't have to be organized well. It doesn't have to have no spelling mistakes, but at least show us where you're at so that us as backers know what we're putting. I don't know why I started talking to the creators there. If you're looking at it, you just need to judge, are they far along enough where I feel comfortable giving my money? That's all I'm looking for in those. I'm not looking for, how well laid out it is, and if they have call outs here and, little examples here. I don't care about that. I just want to know what they have, and there's no harm in posting it early, in my mind. Okay, so number 5 is look at their past Kickstarters. So you can click their little, their name on the Kickstarter and you can see, X amount created, and you click that and it'll list how many created. First of all, lets you know if they're the first time Kickstarter, right? That's something important to note. Is this their first rodeo and you have no other history to go on? Hopefully then they have a about us section at the bottom typically where they can say, oh, well, we're from this team and this team and this team and we have experience in the industry. Or it's like, hey, me and my brother decided to do something. That's fine. I don't care. But again, you should figure it out. Now, if they do have past Kickstarters, look at the last few. You don't have to look at all of them. The Kickstarter's been around long enough, especially in the board game industry, where there's a long history. And if Coleman You're Not had messed up Zombicide 1, perhaps, and was really late for that, but then they've been consistent before, it's not even worth going that far back, typically. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, I can't believe they did that. I'm never going to back them. But again, you can spend as much time doing this as you want. But in my mind, you should look at maybe the last 2 or 3. And first of all, if none of them have been delivered yet, in other words, they're that far behind, that's always a little worrisome to me. But again, it depends on the company. Some are more established and can get away with that more. If it's a first-time backer, or if it's like a third-time Kickstarter, where they have 3 Kickstarters and they've delivered none, something to note. Okay. Then you also want to look at when did it deliver? Were there really long delays? So if they have been delivered, was it close to around the time? And really what I do is like, hey, it was 6 months there. I'm going to assume it's 6 months here. I rarely assume I get it on the dot anyway. There's typically always delays and that's fine. I don't care. I'm not sitting there watching like, oh, I should have been here by now. Because things happen, especially if they explain it. But you want to know if there's a 1.5 year delay too, right? That's important. If it took them 1.5 years longer, that's important. If they've never once delivered a wave 2 and they've only done wave 1s, that's a little worrisome. Maybe you want to wait until they actually deliver wave 2 and see what those exclusives at a smaller volume look like before, you back or something like that. Either way, you should look at kind of the delays there and also communication after it was funded. So some companies, once they get the funding, they go dark. It goes lights out, silent. They stop responding. Almost all of them stop responding in the comments, but some even stop making updates, or especially regular updates. So take a look at how often they're updating after the funding, so you know what to expect after this one funds. If it's successful, you need to know, should I expect it every month, every other month, twice a year, never? It's something important to note. Now along those same lines, number 4 is just, if something failed, specifically if they have like a canceled option somewhere, or a failed to fund option, look through that, try and determine what happened, like why did it fail, and then see if those issues were resolved. Part of this is so you don't waste your time in something that's just going to fail again. Part of it's so that you can see how well they're, if they're more organized or what, right? Some of these companies are very indie and very new, and just because you're a board game designer doesn't mean you're a good businessman. It doesn't mean you're great at offering and communicating and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. Okay. If you're a team of 1 or a team of 2 or just a team of a couple dudes that did this or it doesn't matter. Just, it's something to look at, right? So look at why you think it canceled. Look to see if they've improved since then. And then if they have and you like it, go for it. But if not, you might want to caution on that and maybe wait for the last 48 hours to redetermine. Okay, now, the next one you can't always do, and sometimes it can be kind of hard, though more often than not, I get this. So, look for an advertisement for the game. Now, I don't know why, but however they decide how to show advertisements on like Facebook and Board Game Geek and all that, whatever it is, it tends to be, if I've shown interest in it because I backed it, I then start seeing the advertisements for it, which is kind of silly, but whatever. Either way, what's good about seeing their advertisements is you can see how they're pitching their game in like that, like it's not even an elevator pitch. It's like, here's an image, here's how we display our game. If they're showing nothing but minis, then what you're going to want to do is go back to the Kickstarter campaign and see if that's the focus there. Really what you're trying to do is just see if there's consistency here, right? So you're trying to determine the focus of the campaign. Sometimes it's a miniature line with a game attached to it. Sometimes it's a game with a miniature line attached to it. Sometimes it's neither. You just really need to figure out, okay, here's how they're trying to sell it. Here's how they're explaining it. Do I see a line of sight there? Does it seem to match? Because sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll think that it's kind of gameplay focused, but they're not advertising the game at all. And that's something to probably note and then ponder about why that might be the case. Could just be they're just trying to get that sweet miniature money. Could be that, maybe that actually is a focus and the game place is kind of a farce. It's just an excuse to get the minis. And then you got to determine, are you okay with that? Maybe all you want is the minis. I'm not judging. Okay, we're almost done here. So this one is kind of important. And so these last two, I think I did almost kind of put in order, but really you just want to know, they're all important. So never mind. The number one's important. Look at the interactions that they have. First of all, how they respond to feedback, but also just where they are. Are they in the comments section? Are they in updates? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Board Game Geek? Do they got a Twitter account? Do they have a website? Do they have a blog? Do they have a systematic carrier pigeon underground network that they use? I don't care what it is. You just kind of have to figure out, how are they interacting with the community? Are they good at responding to questions? Are they answering them? Are they compiling them? Are they organized? And then where are they? Because then you need to know where to look, right? A lot of times companies ignore certain parts of Kickstarter, or a lot of times they'll ignore Board Game Geek. And I'm not judging. It's just, again, sometimes these are small teams. They don't have a dedicated marketing team or anything like that. And so this is like, hey, where does the creator happen to go? He can't check 8 different sites. He can't be on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, their website, the Kickstarter comments, the update comments, the campaign page, the live sessions, and Board Game Geek. That's ridiculous. But do check to see if they do live sessions. Or if, just whatever they do, just try and figure out how it is they're communicating. And then if that meshes well with how you like updates. Some people like updates just through Facebook fan pages. Some people like updates only if it's on Board Game Geek because they live and breathe Board Game Geek. Some people are fine at just having a Kickstarter. You just need to kind of figure that one out. Now, the number one thing you should do is watch my details video on it. So typically I always try to do a details video on the day it actually launches of ones that kind of interests me or that I want to create a video on, or that I'm able to work with them. Because to do a day one video, I do have a normal day job. I have to actually have a preview link where I can actually see it and record it and work with them to make sure the information's pretty close to right and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times I'm limited by that. It's not necessarily I don't like it, which brings me to my other point. If I don't have a details video on it, feel free to ask me anyway. I can look at a Kickstarter page, or I already am, and then say, oh yeah, I think that one looks, pretty cool, or, I'd worry about that, or, if you like this, then maybe you like that, or I'm open to talk about it. I don't mind. I can only make so many videos, and there are times where multiple campaigns launch on the same day, and I'm not going to be releasing multiple videos a day ever. I think that's kind of poor channel running there, because you're going to confuse everybody and get too many notifications and whatever. Anyway, look at my details video, because I do try to summarize this kind of stuff. I have like the actual game details where I get those snippets or whatever I think is important. Sometimes I'll pull little nuggets out of the rulebook if I'll glance at it, if they have it available for me and I put in that much effort. So I'll kind of summarize that. Then I'll do the campaign thing, right? So you're looking at the tiers. Is it consumer friendly? What do you get? When do you get it? All that kind of stuff. And then I'll do kind of the King's Decree, where I talk about like, hey, I think this is great. It looks kind of similar to that, and I really like that game, so I'm for that. Or, I'm a little cautious about this. I'm going to check it out, but otherwise it looks promising, and so I'm going to back it now and check later. I'm super honest in that regard. But yeah, so check that out. If you find a summary on there, if somebody else is doing it, watch their video. I don't care. It's not a zero-sum game. Watch it. But then tell me about it so I can look what the competition's doing. Anyway, so that's kind of my top 10 list of, this is stuff I do every time I back a Kickstarter, whether I make a video or not. I'm just looking at this stuff, and I tend to have a pretty good batting average. There's only been one game I've ever been disappointed with from a Kickstarter experience that I've personally put money into, and that's better than a lot of people I've seen. And I know a lot of people worry about this kind of stuff too. So I figure, if this is stuff I do and I'm really confident when I back, I don't have qualms, I back that and then I'm good. I know what I'm doing and I'm happy with my decision. I want you guys to experience that too. So be a better consumer, do your research, and keep on keeping on. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching. And yeah, hate's coming soon. So let's do that.